Welcome to Amplify Digest. I'm your host, Lars Schmidt, and each week I break down some of the top news and trends and all things people in 5 minutes or less. So let's dig in. I'm really excited to kick things off by announcing the guest instructors for the upcoming Foxtrot cohort of the Amplify Academy cohort program. The cohorts have always had such amazing people leaders from my network, and it's been so cool to see how they've interacted with the students in each of the first 5 cohorts, and that tradition continues with Foxtrot. So the guest instructors are going to be Anna Binder, the head of people at Asana, Colleen McCree, the Chief People, Places, and Publicity Officer at Credit Karma, Lynn Oldham, Chief People Officer at Stash, and AJ Thomas, the Chaos Pilot at X, the Moonshot Factory. So it's going to be an incredible experience. It kicks off in 2 weeks. So if you're interested in joining us, the cohorts cap at 30 students. We're halfway there right now. So be sure to secure your seat in the comments as soon as you want to join. I'm a huge fan of Katarina Berg at Spotify. She's been on the guest on the podcast before. We've collaborated on different projects. And I like her for a range of reasons. But 2 of them are, I like how they experiment so much at Spotify. And I also like how they really embrace open source and sharing what they're doing and why they're doing it at Spotify. And so this piece is an overview of their new Scout program, which is an internal movement, mobility, development, performance program that they're piloting within Spotify. So check this out. I think this is a very interesting way to think about talent development within the organization. This is a piece on Dropbox. You know, a lot of companies obviously during the pandemic and through the pandemic have shifted to hybrid, but Dropbox have really nailed it. They've been great at communicating what they're doing, how they're doing it. They have released a range of open source resources they've used internally and have made those available externally in terms of helping the transition. And this is a pretty meaty time story that I think, especially with some of the recent press we've seen around, why people need to go back to an office and the downsides of hybrid and remote work. I think this is a refreshing take on hybrid that really gets into some of the benefits they've seen since making this move. So definitely worth your time. Oh yes, the boy bosses of Silicon Valley. This is mostly for my friends who work in tech, which I know is a lot of you. And if you probably already had this forwarded to you by 12 of your friends, so let me be the 13th person just in case. But yeah, it gets into, really the way the market had been over the last several years and the amount of VC that was flowing, the time for some of these, earlier career and even first time, founders, CEOs to ride rocket high valuations to unicorn status and beyond. Those days may be dwindling, and as the VC market cools a bit, the market itself cools a little bit. This article spotlights some of those leaders who have decided to step down and move on to other things. So, sign of things to come? I don't know, but interesting to kind of look at how some of these CEOs really kind of rode that hot market and may not be doing the same anymore. This is a really interesting visualization, and shout out to Hung Lee and his Recruiting Brain Food newsletter for bringing this to my attention. But it gets into some of a visualization of some of the layoffs and the rifts that we've seen in the U.S. market over the last year. And so, I love data visualizations. I think it's a really powerful means of storytelling. And again, I think they did a tremendous job in this case of, representing some of those layoffs and the size and scope of those layoffs. And they also, if you scroll through the article, they peg some of this to inflation. So there's another chart that shows the inflation rates going up, and it makes the connection between some of these layoffs and inflation. So definitely worth your time. This may be one you want to circulate to your executive peers if they haven't seen that already. And lastly, this is a really interesting New York Times article on the rise of surveillance software in the workplace. If you're doing this, don't. It's a bullshit way of managing worker productivity, but a lot of companies are, and a lot of organizations are using this. And so this gets into some stories of some of the harm that these programs do. What's really fascinating about this article is it's an interactive article, and they use some surveillance software to actually track how far you've read, how much you've read as you're going through the article. So it's a great way to kind of experience that firsthand as you're reading the piece. So That's a wrap for this week. I'll be back with more news, trends, and information next week. I know for a lot of you that are parents out there, you have kids going back to school. So I want to send you some luck and mojo with that. Mine go back to school next week. So it's going to be an experience. I know this is always a transition for families. So just wishing you all the best there. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you next week.